What function of saturation, please, how to measure in the saturation in condenser and evap? So saturation, so we're going to get into some just basic principles here. Saturation is the boiling temperature or condensing temperature of a refrigerant. So just like with water, water will boil at 212 and then condense at 212. Now we could get into sensible and latent heats and all kinds of stuff there, but the point is that is the point at which it's going to transition states. Okay, we're going to move from a liquid to a gas and from a gas to a liquid. That is our saturation point. And that's what we're doing with the refrigeration cycle of how we're able to move heat. As we move from one form to another, we are adding heat and rejecting heat. And that's how we can take it from, say, the evaporator, which in our case with the chiller is water, right? We can take it from water, put it in refrigerant, and then either move it to somewhere we can put it in air or other water to cooling tower, whatever the case may be. So every refrigerant has a PT chart, a pressure temperature chart. If the you'll have to find, like, obviously you should know what your refrigerant is, like what type it is. Is it 123, R11, R22, 134? So once you know what type it is, you can pull up a PT chart for that refrigerant. And that PT chart, pressure temperature chart, will allow you to take a pressure reading of the vessel. Okay, so let's say this was the evaporator, doesn't really matter. You take a pressure reading, and then you can use that chart to correlate that pressure to a set temperature, a saturation temperature specifically. And that temperature is how we can determine how well we can use it for a lot of things. One, we can use it to determine how well we're transferring heat. We can use it to see where we need to be to move heat. So it, like, how much we need to lower the pressure. So if we want to have a leaving water temperature of 45 degrees on the evaporator, and we have a chiller that uses a 3-degree approach. Okay, so what that would mean is that with a 3 degrees of approach and we want 45 degrees leaving, we need the refrigerant saturation at 42 to achieve those numbers. So we can then, by using the metering device and the compressor, and these two working in unison, we can control how much we feed into the evaporator to achieve a set saturation temperature so that our leaving water temperature can be at set point, whatever that set point is. Now, that is a very oversimplified way of explaining that, but in essence, that is what is being accomplished. So we are always moving from more heat to less heat. So in the evaporator, we need that saturation temperature you'll see on the PT chart to be lower than the water temperature. And then on the condenser side, let's say it's a water-cooled condenser, for example. Well, we want to reject heat that way. So we want to get rid of it into the water in the condenser. So that saturation now needs to be so much higher than the condenser water temperature so that we can move enough heat at a high enough volume to get that into the water to then be carried off and gotten rid of somewhere else. So that is how we're using saturation and how we can determine it with just a pressure gauge. Whether you have a control panel giving that information to you as a readout or not, just depending on what equipment you're working on. Like that is what saturation is, and that is what we're doing with it. If you're not already in Chiller Academy, I'd really encourage you to go check it out. Just think about it, right? This is what I do full time. I've committed. I've stepped out of the field, committed my career to this going forward. This is what I've always wanted to do, and to be able to educate, help others, and grow, and help this industry take steps forward. So chilleracademy.com. Like I'd love to be able to work with you over there. We've got a community page. All the lessons have a comment section. That's what I spend a lot of my day doing. If I'm not working on the lesson material itself, then I am in the comments and I'm trying to respond to those as fast as I can, in addition to helping you through email and otherwise. So, love to be able to work with you. For all of those that are in the academy, y'all are doing some great work out there. Keep it up. I really appreciate the support and the feedback that you've given.